I did something really dumb. But before I tell you about it, I want to emphasize that you should never try it yourself. It's like poking a lion at the zoo. Definitely not a good idea. You don't want that lion getting loose and causing chaos. Now think about Ouija boards like electrical outlets. If you leave them alone and don't mess with them, they won't cause any harm. It's when you start playing with them that things can go wrong. When I was in high school, I read a book called The Divine Comedy. In it, there's a part where a guy named Dante goes through hell. He meets a bunch of dead and suffering spirits who ask him about life on the surface with the living. As a kid, I thought it would be interesting if the dead wanted to know what was happening nowadays. So during my spring break, I grabbed a Ouija board and went into the woods behind my house. There used to be a state prison there. I found a part of the fence that was broken and went into the area where the prison used to be. Then, I stumbled upon the old prisoner's cemetery. It looked forgotten and covered in plants, but I thought it would be a good spot to try to connect with spirits who might be suffering in hell. So, I pitched my tent among the old tombstones and stuck a crucifix upside down in the ground. I thought it might help get more attention from the spirits. Then I got the board ready. My plan was to talk to a bad spirit and make a deal with it. I'd offer it information in exchange for something it wanted. Then I'd ask it to scare some people for me. I thought that was how this stuff worked, like making a deal with the devil. I opened my book to the page that showed how hell was set up. I started talking to the Ouija board out loud, asking if there were any spirits from the first circle of hell buried there. Then I asked about the second circle and kept going like that. I didn't really think Dante's story was a perfect map of the underworld, but I thought if hell was real, it might be structured kind of like he described. For a little while, nothing happened. There were no weird noises, no spooky feelings, nothing to show that anyone or anything was listening. I kept going through all the levels of hell, making sure to speak clearly and confidently. Then, I stopped to take a drink of water from my canteen. Suddenly, with the night sky as my witness, the flames from my fire grew bigger and shot up, and the pointer on the board moved sideways about half an inch. I got scared for a bit. Then, I put my fingers back on the pointer. I asked if there was a spirit there. The pointer moved, but not smoothly like I thought it would. It sort of slid sideways toward the yes spot on the board. It felt like it was being pulled slowly by a string. The yes spot was up in the top left corner of the board. I asked if the spirit used to be a prisoner and was buried in the cemetery. Again, it said yes. I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on around me. My heart was beating so loud in my ears that I couldn't hear much else. Then, I asked if the spirit had any questions for me. The pointer moved really slowly to the word no. Then, I heard a thumping sound to my right. Before I could say anything else, the pointer quickly moved back to yes. I asked, "How many spirits are here?" The pointer started moving all over the numbers on the board, jumping around like there were lots of hands pulling it. All of a sudden, even though there was a fire in front of me, I felt really chilly. I smelled something awful in the air. I looked up over the fire and saw two sets of yellow eyes, maybe about a dozen feet away. One set looked way bigger than the other. It made me think of a man with a huge dog next to him, like they were waiting for the perfect time to attack me. Suddenly, a headstone next to my tent fell over. I was so scared that I flung myself backward, tearing up the tent as I did. In the dark, I scrambled out of my collapsed tent and sprinted as fast as I could out of the cemetery. The next afternoon, I returned, and thankfully, the fire had burned out safely on its own. I gathered up the cross, my book, and the ripped tent, but oddly, I couldn't find the board anywhere. It was like it had vanished. I didn't stick around to search for it much longer, though. I wanted to get out of there before I heard any more strange noises. A couple of months later, I told a friend what happened, and she said she wanted to try it too. But after that, I never saw her again. She went missing while camping and ended up on the news. Nobody has seen her since then. I wish I had tried harder to stop her. There was something I didn't tell her that I wish I had. but I didn't think she would believe me anyway. It wasn't just the tombstone falling over that scared me. I felt something like a thud from beneath the ground. I wonder if the spirits I talked to that night were trying to pull me down to hell with them, and maybe my friend couldn't run as fast as I did. There's still so much I wonder about. When I was young, I really liked ghost stories and shows about haunted places. I didn't think my house was haunted though. Then, one day, my brother came home saying he found $10 out of nowhere. I don't know if he was joking, but I got curious and asked him where he really got the money from. I thought maybe he got it from a friend, or took it from our parents' wallet without them noticing. But they didn't say anything about missing money, which they definitely would have if they noticed it was gone. He told me a story about a little girl, maybe 7 years old, who followed him onto the school bus that afternoon. He didn't know the girl, and he'd never seen her at school before, but she chose to sit in the seat just in front of him on the bus. As they rode along, she started chatting with him. He said nobody else could see her, and the other kids were staring at him strangely. Then, she gave him $10 along with a note, and soon after, she got off the bus at the next stop. I thought he was making it up and laughed. Then I asked him to show me the note. He got it from his room and handed me a small piece of paper. I got chills when I saw it, because it wasn't his handwriting. The note said, "I'll help you, but just this once." I think it was because my brother had been asking our parents for a Zelda charm bracelet for months, but they kept saying no. Now that he had $10, he could buy the bracelet himself, but I was really curious about all this, even if it sounded crazy. I had an idea. We could make a homemade Ouija board to try to talk to someone. We wrote down the letters of the alphabet on a piece of paper and used a necklace to move around above the board we made. My brother thought it might be exciting, so he joined in. Just so you know, I was in 6th grade, and he was in 4th grade back then. Anytime the necklace moved, we got really interested and thought it was a ghost. After asking a few questions, the necklace started moving and shaking. We managed to get a name, Kate, after asking silly questions like, "Did you watch me finish the Shadow Temple in Ocarina of Time?" And getting a yes, my brother and I decided to stop for the night because we were starting to feel scared. We always forgot to say goodbye before stopping. Eventually, we started playing with the board every day. We thought we had made a friend and really believed someone was talking to us. My brother and I decided to try something new and record what was happening. So we both got our tablets, put them in front of the TV, and pressed record. Then I asked if someone was there, could they move something in the room? But nothing happened. Maybe the ghost was shy. We decided to ask the same question again, but this time we said we'd leave the room for a minute. We went downstairs for 5 minutes, and when we came back up, our tablets had fallen to the floor and stopped recording. Coincidence? I mean, stuff falls all the time, especially if you're not careful when you put it down. So, we didn't think much of it. But in December of 6th grade, things got really strange. I started hearing voices in my head, saying they were the ghost I talked to when we played with the Ouija board. One night, I got so scared that I grabbed the Bible my religious friend had given me and slept with it. Finally, I told my mom that a ghost was saying scary stuff to me. I won't say what exactly, because some of it was really scary. My mom and dad argued about whether I might have something called schizophrenia, and if I should see a therapist. I was scared, so I didn't tell them when I heard the voices again. But I often zoned out, talking and having conversations with what I thought was a ghost. Eventually, I forgot about it, and we stopped talking. I'll never know what that voice was. Maybe I was really going crazy, or maybe they were just thoughts that kept bothering me. Either way, I was relieved when it finally stopped. Nothing really creepy has happened to me since then, except for my TV turning on by itself sometimes at night, or feeling like something is pushing my legs now and then. I think it's just my mind playing tricks on me, but I still have this weird feeling that ever since I played with that Ouija board, there's some kind of spirit with me, following me around. About 2 years ago, my Nana came home with a dusty old Ouija board she found at a yard sale. I've always been fascinated by creepy things, like ghosts and the supernatural, but I've also heard plenty of horror stories, and seen enough scary shows to know that messing with a Ouija board is not a good idea. My Nana doesn't believe in ghosts at all. She thought the Ouija board would be a fun game for me. I left it sitting on the dining table for days until Nana told me to put it away, so I shoved it under my bed, hoping I'd forget about it. My little brother, who's 11, and my cousin, who's 12, kept bothering me about the Ouija board because they wanted to play with it. I kept telling them it's not just a game and it's not safe to mess with, but you know how boys that age are. They just can't resist doing things they shouldn't. One day when I got back from work, I had this feeling in my gut that they had gone ahead and played with it. I peeked under my bed and saw the board was still there, but something felt off. So, I went downstairs and asked my brother and cousin about it. At first, they said they didn't touch it, but I could tell they were lying. Eventually, they confessed that they did play with it. I asked if they said goodbye when they finished, and they said they did. My cousin loves to make up wild stories and blow things out of proportion, so when he told me about some stuff that supposedly happened, I didn't buy it. Plus, since they're boys who like to prank each other, I figured they were just messing around. Anyway, a couple of nights later, I climbed into bed, and as I lay there trying to sleep, I felt like someone was watching me. I glanced at my closet, where one of the sliding doors was a bit open, creating a small gap. It gave me the chills, so I turned away and tried to forget about it, hoping to drift off to sleep. Eventually, I fell asleep, but then I suddenly woke up, feeling like something had hit me in the back of the head. I was lying flat on my back with my head on the pillow, so it was strange feeling something hit the back of my head, and it wasn't just a gentle tap. It was a big scare. I was really frightened and started shaking. I looked around my room, but didn't see anything. Then suddenly, I heard the floor creaking like someone was walking around my bed. After lying there for a while, I finally gathered the courage to get up and grab my phone. I dashed to the living room and sat down, trying to calm myself. I still felt a strange throbbing feeling at the back of my head. When I turned on my phone, I saw it was 3 a.m. Tears were streaming down my face from being so scared. I called my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and told him what happened. He didn't answer, and I must have called him another 15 to 20 times before I gave up. I stayed in the chair until my Nana woke up around 6. I didn't tell her what happened, because I knew she wouldn't believe me and would just say I was being silly. After she got up, I had breakfast and then tried calling my boyfriend again. This time, he finally picked up. He said he had put his phone on silent, so he didn't realize I had been calling. I gave him a hard time about it. Believe me. I explained what happened, and he felt really sorry and stupid about it. He said he would have come over right away to make me feel better, and was very sorry. Later that day, my husband came over, and we took the Ouija board to a junkyard to throw it away. He's the only one in my family who knows what happened, and after getting rid of the board, I didn't experience anything strange again. So, once more, the lesson is clear. Ouija boards are not something to play around with. My mom, dad, and I often visit the Smoky Mountains and stay in cabins near Pigeon Forge, but one trip in particular still bothers me. It was about 8 years ago. We stayed in a cabin with an alarm system. It was already dark when we arrived and got comfortable in the cabin. We turned on the alarm and decided to watch a movie together, but while we were watching, the security alarm suddenly went off. It was only supposed to go off if the door was open. We searched the whole cabin, but everything seemed normal. The next morning, we called the company that rented us the cabin to ask them to check the alarm system. Someone came and checked the system, They told us that our cabin had been called about multiple times in the past month for the same problem. It's only the first day, and I'm already feeling a bit scared. I saw a book on the table where guests can write about how much they like the cabin. As I kept reading more, I noticed that many of them talked about feeling scared and worried. Some people even mentioned finding wet footprints on the deck near the hot tub. When I told my family about these, they said they were probably just made up to scare people. I agreed with them and continued our day as usual. That night, we went to bed like always. My dad slept downstairs in the cabin. I slept on the main floor near the kitchen, and my mom slept upstairs. My dad snores really loud, so we all sleep far apart, even my mom. It was around 2 in the morning when I woke up because I heard the fridge door close. I saw the bright light from the fridge shining through the crack under my closed bedroom door. The light kept appearing and disappearing, as if someone was opening and closing the fridge. I thought it might be my mom or dad, deciding what to eat for a late-night snack, but I felt strange and didn't want to get out of bed to join them for a snack. The fridge light went away slowly, and I heard footsteps leaving my room and heading towards my mom's room. The footsteps paused for a moment, then started going up the stairs. The next morning, I woke up and went straight to my mom. I asked her if she got up for a late-night snack. She looked puzzled and asked, "What are you talking about?" I explained that I heard someone going upstairs, maybe around 2 in the morning, and assumed it was her, but she shook her head and said she didn't get up at all during the night. She looked at me and said, "I thought that was you." At that time, I sometimes walked in my sleep. She told me she saw me standing at the top of the stairs last night, around that time. She thought I was sleepwalking because I looked at her and then went back downstairs. I started to panic because I wasn't at the top of the stairs. For the rest of the trip, I slept with my mother on the top floor. I didn't have any more strange experiences and didn't see anything else unusual, but I made sure not to go anywhere alone. A couple of months later, my dad said he wanted to rent another cabin for a trip. We went to see the same cabin we rented last time, but we found out it was closed and couldn't be rented anymore. Out of curiosity, he looked into it and found out that many guests had strange experiences in that cabin. Some felt unsafe, some thought there was someone in the cabin who shouldn't be there, and others left before their vacation ended. I'm still not sure what my mother and I experienced that night at the cabin, but now I know we're not the only ones who went through something like that.